I would like to take a few minutes of your time and read a section out of this textbook, 7 Core Issues in Adoption and Permanency. And this is going to be adoptees and individuals raised in kinship and foster families and how they may experience rejection. Adopted individuals most often view their placement into adoption as a form of rejection. Even if their adoption and permanency experience was positive, the initial separation from their parents may be experienced as rejection. Adopted people then may become sensitive to the slightest hint of rejection, disapproval, or dismissal, causing them to either avoid situations where they might be rejected or even provoke rejection in order to validate their own negative self-perceptions. Adopted people can view the placement as a complete personal rejection by the birth or first family, their culture, their race, or their country of origin, regardless of the circumstances or the reason for the placement or adoption. As a way of defending against further rejection, adoptees may work very hard to blend in, not complain, be grateful, not ask for what they need, and please others at the expense of their own needs. They may maintain hurtful or unhealthy connections because they do not feel worthy of having loving and satisfying relationships. At the other extreme, adoptees may be angry, defensive, and alone, or act as bullies so they can hurt others before they are hurt. They may exhibit destructive behaviors in order to maintain emotional distance from others or defend against creating dependency to avoid further traumatic loss, rejection, and pain. This behavior is a self-protective mechanism to guard against further psychic injury. Adoptees and individuals raised in kinship or foster families may experience rejection from their first or birth parents. Adopted children witness poor families, single parents, young parents, and even ill parents raising their children. Their conclusion often is that it is something personal about them that created the loss and/or abandonment. They recognize that to have been chosen by another family, they had to be unchosen or rejected by their birth or first parents. From other first or birth family members who did not come forward to claim them. If adopted as an infant or small child, the realization of these additional losses and subsequent feelings of rejection may not surface until the child has reached a developmental stage that allows them to understand the loss of these connections. From their adoptive, foster, or kinship parents who may minimize their expressions of confusion, fear, sadness, and anger. No matter how attached the adoptee may feel to their parents, if these deeper feelings are not acknowledged and validated, the experience of being truly known and accepted by the family is diminished. The child may feel that if the parents cannot acknowledge their deep feelings, a part of them is being rejected. From society, when intense feelings manifest in behavioral outbursts like yelling, cursing, bullying, lying, stealing, and hitting, these behaviors may become pathologized and the child may be labeled as troubled or bad. Rejection is triggered for the child as they may be expelled from school, sent away to a treatment center, hospitalized, and/or sent to a boarding school. From previous caregivers when they have experienced disruptions in their primary attachment relationships. Children, teens, and adults may see these moves and disruptions as a personal rejection. Children in foster care who have changed placements several times and experienced repeated attachment disruptions or relational trauma may have an internalized belief that they deserve to be rejected from their parents, or they may fear rejection from their parents as they consider the possibility of searching for and having a reunion with their birth or first family. They may wonder if their adoptive parents will reject them if they search, or if they find their birth family, they may be rejected again. In their desire to protect their adoptive parents and their fear of losing their adoptive family, adoptees may reject their very primal need to know the truth of their story. From family and community, when the language and phrases used in adoption and permanency reinforce feelings of rejection, for example, unplanned, a mistake, put up, given up, unwanted, illegitimate, bastard, or hard to place child. The child may feel that they were unlovable, unwanted, unworthy, damaged, ugly, stupid, bad, or defective. The child wonders whether if they had been good, easier, taller, less demanding, cuter, quieter, smarter, sweeter, nicer, less angry, more compliant, more attractive, more something, they might have been kept, not rejected. From strangers, friends, or family members when they make comments that invalidate the child's place in their family. Commonly asked questions consistently remind them that others may not view their family as real or acceptable, and that others may see them as not a legitimate member of their family. Examples include, are these your real children? Do you have any of your own children? Why don't you look like your parents? Who are your real parents? An individual may question whether this is their real family and whether they really belong in this family. When records are sealed from them, even for adults, adoptees may feel that they are treated as second-class citizens and do not have the same civil rights as all other individuals who can access their original birth certificates and information. Total strangers working for the government can access and read personal information about the adoptee that the adoptee has no right to access. By the government or state, the creation of a legal document that lists the adoptive parents as the birth parents rejects the truth of the adoptee's origins and begins to build a false narrative about the adoptee's life. When the state conspires to seal the original identity, it can feel like a rejection of a person's very being. From the birth parents, when the adoption is open, the adoptee may have additional feelings of rejection as they witness the parents creating subsequent children and raising them. Another experience of rejection may surface when the birth parents have chosen to raise the siblings that came before the child who was placed. From birth or first parents, when they are planning to place or maybe losing another child through the courts and that subsequent child is not placed with their adoptive family. The adoptee may wonder if this occurred because their family wasn't good enough or if their adoptive parents didn't want another child like them. When their adoptive parents choose to parent through third-party reproduction rather than adopt another child, the adoptee may feel that their adoption was not good enough and therefore the parents are not choosing to adopt again. When adoptive parents are willing to go to any length and expense to bring a child genetically connected to them into the family, the adoptee can feel diminished. When either the adoptive parents or birth parents decide to close and open adoption, it may be experienced as a loss or rejection when those relationships are severed. When society supports the idea that the good adoptee is the one who is not curious and accepts their adoption without question, at the other extreme is the bad adoptee who is constantly questioning how their adoption came to be in an effort to understand their story and is then judged by others as being ungrateful. When the truth of adoption is withheld from them, they may overhear someone talking about their adoption, discover adoption paperwork after their parents are deceased, or hear that they were adopted from an extended family member. If the parents taught them that honesty was an important value, and then they discover that the truth of their origins was withheld from them, they may feel rejected by their family, or they may reject the family that raised them for withholding the facts. When imagining who their birth family may be and how their birth family feels about them, in a closed adoption without real information, children often fill the void with fantasies. Children have active imaginations and have experienced Disney movies, fairy tales, and books that expose them to wicked witches, kidnapping, mothers dying horrible deaths, babies being left or abandoned, babies being mixed up in the nurseries, and babies being stolen and sold, and all these stories can build frightening images of birth parents. These negative images and fantasies impact a child's feelings of worth. I came from terrible people. Fantasies flourish where facts flounder. And finally, when the family who is raising them does not accept their true nature and wants the child to be more like them. These differences would include types of humor, interests, skill sets, personality traits, and quirks, intellectual and athletic abilities, manner of expression such as speech cadence and speed of thought processes. People who are born into their family may experience differences that make them stand out, but being adopted to a family can cause these differences to be less tolerated, creating feelings of being an outsider and unacceptable, a lack of fit.